Hey, this is Jay Croft from Warm Chord Music, episode number 10. We're going to be talking about Jack White today, and with me we've got a couple guests.
Ryan Looney, Electric Alley. Yeah, let's go.
Ed Sertage here with Woodshed Studios. Also guitar player, bass player, so I know my music.
Sweet.
If
Yes,
that means
sir.
anything.
So today we're going to do things a little bit differently. Ryan wanted to do this episode,
Yeah.
and both Ed and I are all about it. So Ryan, you're more of the Jack White expert. So we're going to have you lead things off today. So what do you want to cover today?
I just figure we keep it really simple and go in a kind of an order of his work. Kind of the start of the White Stripes up until the recent solo artist albums that he's been up to lately. So, yeah, just kind of keeping it simple. But, yeah, Jack White, a little bit of background on him. You know, obviously a Detroit native. We're right down the road from him. You know, very eccentric dude. Was born John Gillis. Married Meg White, took her last name, which is somewhat, I would say, strange.
Not in a bad way, though.
Not in a bad way, kind of a cool way, but
It doesn't happen every day. So
Let's say
Yeah.
this, it's non-traditional.
it's non-traditional. That's a good politically correct term.
it doesn't surprise me though. Like if you think about it, you have everything else that he does with all his, whether you want to call it gimmicks or his branding, his style. Like Jack White has a pretty good ring to it compared to Jack Gillis
John Gillis,
or whatever
yeah.
his name was. So I mean, maybe that was intentional. He was thinking ahead like that. I don't know.
I'm sure he was. So, like you said, branding. He was probably already thinking about that when he was, you know, forming his own, you know, career as a musician. He before the White Stripes, he was in the Upholsterers, which was him and Brian Muldoon, where they worked in an upholstery shop together. So they formed a band. I think they could both play drums, but Brian could only play drums. So then Jack White said, "Well, I'll play guitar and sing." And then they. Once again, the novelty, the gimmick behind it was they pressed 100 records, 7-inch. But by the way, back then records weren't really. I mean, some of the indie artists were doing
indie stuff,
vinyl,
yeah.
but
Wasn't like it is right now, where records are outselling CDs.
exactly.
Like you were in the scene buying records.
Yeah.
You know, like you were all about it. Like then, now it's like.
Yeah, now
You
it's
know,
Best Buy has.
I'm waiting for my mom to be
whatever.
like, "Hey, I just bought a new record," you know.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
That's the next step.
Walk into Best Buy, looking at like sound bars for my TV, and there's like a shit ton of vinyl
Yeah.
right there. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the heck?
I'm surprised that it's not in CVS now or something.
Right.
You know, where it's that
That'll be next.
kind of gimmicky. But anyway, so they were, they did, I think, 100 copies of 7-inch. I've never even heard it. But the story goes they hid them inside the furniture that they reupholstered.
Really?
So, and they've since come out and said, if you find one of these, like, let us know. We'll do some publicity about it or whatever. So I think like 7 or 8 have been found, and that's it.
Really?
Yep.
Some of them are probably in some landfill somewhere. Like somebody's like,
I'm sure.
Get rid of this old ass couch.
How would you
Yeah.
even know? Like, unless you just decide to start cutting open your damn furniture. Hey,
Yeah.
like if you felt something, but I mean, they probably wouldn't.
They're probably like underneath some
Yeah,
cushion
yeah.
that you. I mean, you're not gonna know.
You're never gonna find it. But I just thought that was pretty cool, because that says like, they're releasing. That's more of an artistic approach to anything. That's not obviously to get your name out there. That's not.
It's not for commodity.
Not
It's
for
yeah.
commodity. Not for money. That is for.
So they didn't sell any 7-inches. They were all
I don't.
in there.
I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I think all they did was pressed 100 up, put every one of them in
That's pretty damn cool.
sofa or whatever.
And so now there's 8 of them in existence or whatever.
Probably.
Right. And I
yeah.
mean, there's probably there's out there, but only 8 of them are known.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong on the number now. I
Yeah.
mean, but this was a couple
Right.
years ago when I checked on it. And it was like 8 or something had been found.
Well, yeah, and you don't. I mean, I guess if you knew, like, hey, these guys reupholstered my stuff 25 years ago.
Let's cut it open.
Let's cut it open before we throw it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would make sense.
I'd be pissed if they did reupholster my shit and
Didn't
and
have
I
one.
didn't check it, and I threw it out on the curb, and it's gone. Be like, damn it! I had it reupholstered right at that time.
And they didn't.
I could have just-
They didn't like my furniture or something. Good enough to give me.
You know, like around what year this all happened? Like the
Man, this would have been. I'm probably off
mid-90s
on
or
it, but this
early
would have been
90s maybe?
mid '90s probably. Because the White Stripes didn't come out with a record
96, I think.
until actually 99 was their
really?
first.
because I read something about
I
him.
think 97 was their first show.
He I've never heard of him until I was doing some research, but there's this garage band called the Henchmen, which are still out, and he was like it said like an occasional member. Like I don't know if he's actually on any records or he just played live with them once in a while, but said that he was in that even before the White Stripes. So do you know? Because you sound like you've heard the
No,
the
I
Henchmen.
know of the Henchmen. I don't know.
I don't know
anything
what
about their
role.
history. I mean, they're like part of that. I believe it's the garage rock scene
Yeah.
and stuff. I don't want to speak for them because I don't know enough about them. But I mean, that was never my forte. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I never got it big into the garage rock stuff.
I think this could be way off too, but I think Jack White's first band was Goober and the Peas, which featured him on drums. I'm not sure who was singing or
Yeah, that was cowpunk.
but
stuff,
that was
though.
like like a cowpunk type thing.
So is drums like his original instrument?
Yep.
Like his primary instrument before
His-
he started doing any of the guitar stuff?
Yes, his first instrument was drums. So he spoke of like, if you watch, there's a Dead Weather interview where he talks about like his drumming, and he talks about riding his bike up to Wonderland Music in Dearborn and buying his first cymbal.
Yeah.
And he still has that cymbal on his kit today.
Really?
Yeah, which is kind of
Nice.
cool. Yeah, so we all remember Wonderland.
Yeah.
Wasn't that wondrous, but
No, it was not. It's
yeah,
still
had
there,
a lot
right?
of
Isn't it
pianos
still
or
there?
something. Yeah,
It's still there.
I think it's still around.
I think it's. I don't know. I haven't been there in years.
Yeah.
I mean, the music store stuff is dead anyways. So
Yeah, so obviously like all that happened under the radar. He was born in 75, so he's a little bit older than us, not
Like
much.
one of 10 kids or something.
One of 10, yeah, he's 10 of 10 too.
Yeah, the
so
youngest.
he's the
he's
youngest.
the baby of the family. Wow.
He's the baby. So, he was an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts. Dan actually knows him
Yes,
from that.
one of our
Dan went to
mutual
Boy
friends.
Scouts with him at in Southwest Detroit.
Holy Redeemer. Didn't they go to Holy Redeemer together?
Yep. And Jack White ended up graduating from Cass Tech. Did Dan end up graduating? No, just kidding.
Yes, from Southgate Anderson.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so after that era or whatever, when he was doing that drumming and everything, I think that's when would have been 96, 97 when they started forming the White Stripes with his wife. Would have been Meg would have been his wife. I think they were divorced before they even put out their first record.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. I
So
don't know.
did
Hopefully
you-
that's true. Hopefully we're not just spouting out
No,
facts that
I'm
are
pretty
completely
close.
untrue.
I could be off a year or two with all
Yeah.
this, but
Did you find anything out about like Meg White as far as drumming? Like, did she like get taught how to play by like Jack White?
No.
Or did she learn it herself, or like, because obviously if you listen to the White Stripes stuff, I mean, the whole idea, the gimmick was to make it sound like kid-like,
well, that's
So, and then-
what Jack White's intentions were. Where he said, he liked that childish element to her drumming. Don't practice because then it sounds too forced, too polished, But there's, everyone hates when I say this, but Meg White is one of my favorite drummers. Simply, I know everyone's like,
That's the whole reason for doing this
"Oh,
episode is
why?"
to get him to say that.
But I'll tell you what, there is an innocence behind it, man. It's like, remember when you first could put a drum beat together? It's like, that's all that song needed,
Well, and I think too, it's like with like her style of drumming, it's like if it's only a certain period of time you can drum like that, because at some point you do get better, and then you lose that. So it's almost like almost like a photographic record of the growth of somebody. Like at some point it has to have like a beginning and an end, because just from doing the process of playing the drums, you're going to get better. And then that, to me, that's the whole thing of their sound is like that. Like, I can't imagine, like, I mean, can you imagine, like, John Bonham or something in that group? Like, it would just be a totally different group. It just wouldn't have, not that it wouldn't have an impact, it would just be an entirely different type of impact.
Yeah, there's things on there that she does as a drummer that we wouldn't do, like overemphasize some of the rhythms that Jack would play on guitar, like whether he, if he did something like do 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 do, she would actually like mimic that.
Yeah,
where most drummers just would play through that and then maybe find one part of that to accent.
Yeah,
where she's literally just she's hearing the rhythm and mimicking it, which is
she's got a strong backbeat hand too.
She does. She cracks
Ryan's
the hell
always
out of
talking about that.
No, I mean I was watching her. I was watching some
drum.
live stuff, and her rim shots are just like. I mean, it's just she's not falling all over the place tempo wise, but she's definitely not as steady as some of the drummers he's been playing with since he left the White Stripes. That's obvious.
But the two of them lock in together great. I mean,
yeah.
I always thought like he. With two people, you have such sparseness. You don't have to be super tight. Like, there's not 4, 5, 6 instruments going on. But I always thought like he could kind of act as like the controller. Like she was like kind of like the marionette, and he could pull her, push her, whatever it was, stop her at the drop of a dime, and like. That worked, with 3 other people, that might not work the same way.
Yeah. Well, I know. We saw him at the Masonic Temple.
Yeah.
Right. I think I was there with you.
Yep.
And that was the thing I noticed too. Like on stage, I mean, they're like, it's almost like two people playing to each other.
Yeah, they're like conducting each other.
Yeah, I felt like that you were watching them like at their rehearsal, but it was a performance. Like it wasn't like they were only playing for themselves, but you could tell like they were enjoying what they were doing, and they were like feeding off each other, communicating. Definitely like
back then though, because Jack White's like real, he talks about not having a set list. Mm-hmm. Was he doing that even back then with the White Stripes? Did they have a set list back then?
I don't think they ever had a set list. I think it was all Jack White's big thing is go off of what I think the crowd wants next.
So that plays into even more the whole, like, you feel like you're at like an open practice or something because it's not this oiled machine of a show.
But it was weird because it wasn't. I mean, it was like an open practice, but it wasn't. I mean, it was still like entirely professional.
Yeah.
The way they had the stage set up, the way things looked. I mean, it was laid out great. But I mean, from what I remember, I think he had a couple different mics set up. Yeah. So he was like in different places at different times, but he was always kind of like, and had this ability to face her when he would play, So they were kind of like, they were both, and she was always kind of like looking at him and watching him as she's drumming and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was interesting. It was a great show. I mean, it was one of my more memorable shows.
What was this? Like, how long ago was
it?
It
would have been 04?
Was it 03, 04,
no,
05?
Right around there.
It was somewhere between 2003 and 2005.
It was, I think they had come out with Get Behind Me, Satan already, which was 05. So that might have been right around there. Because I think they were playing that album because Meg White had that. Remember she had that bell setup thing?
Yeah.
And she would hit the bells. They were almost like a kid's set of bells.
I think they were in all white at that time. Wasn't everything all white by that point?
Yeah, they were doing a they were doing like
I can't remember. This is how old I'm getting.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like the stage setup was kind of like Ed said, it was kind of like the drums were just as almost prominent, as forward as Jack, but then Jack had a microphone or two set up right by her where he could just look at her and conduct kind of what was going on. And then
he'd be like 3 feet away from her at times.
Yeah,
singing, playing, and like an open practice would be.
Then he'd turn around and go to the real mic, or not the real.
Then he
mic,
had that organ set up and stuff.
Yeah, he had I don't think it was a Rhodes or something.
I don't know what
something
it was.
Like a Rhodes, but he had like a red box. They're common. You still
like a Farfisa or something like that.
It's like something like a Farfisa.
Wurlitzer maybe.
Yeah,
the Whirly.
But so like one thing I wanted to talk about though in this episode of the Warm Chord podcast was going back to kind of that album, that Get Behind Me Satan. That's 2005. They put out their first album in 99. So it's about 6 years in between. And I remember specifically, I don't know where we were, Ed, but we were somewhere. And I put in that record in the van, that white van that you had. Yep. And you said, man, this sounds like one of the rawest records they put out yet. And I went back and listened today. And I was like, why would Ed say that? Because some of that shit was really lo-fi before that. That was pretty lo-fi sounding. And I didn't look at, where they recorded it or anything. But one thing I noticed was just that kick drum. It's huge. It's just it's like an 808.
And there's not a lot of attack.
It's
a lot of...
Yeah. It's just boom, and it's distorted. And yeah. That album did impress me, hearing it, it was wow.
Even the snare drum has a softer, it's loud and it's big, but it doesn't have a lot of, I don't know what the frequency is, but the high end, it seems like it's almost muffled a little bit, not as far
thud.
as it's still
almost
ringing out.
A blanket over thing.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. Maybe
I would
a tea towel or something. No,
what's that?
A tea towel.
Yeah.
It's
can you put a moon gel on that?
Can you put a moon gel on this thing?
So, but that album, he used a marimba on it a lot.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Which is really bizarre.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear that in much.
You don't.
What influenced the marimba, I wonder?
I could not remember. I know there is a story behind the marimba.
So it reminds me a lot of that Broken Flowers.
Okay.
That movie, Jim Jarmusch or whatever.
With Bill Murray.
Yeah. And it has that Ethiopian jazz soundtrack, and there's a lot of marimba and stuff in it.
Maybe that could have been an
influence. And I wonder if that was an influence, because I know he did coffee and cigarettes with them. The whole Tesla coil thing.
That was the Tesla coil,
which is awesome. That's speaking my language right there. You're talking about Tesla coils,
right?
I'm in.
AC versus DC.
Get Behind Me, Satan. I noted the Blue Orchid, My Doorbell, and the Denial Twist. There's a couple others I like, but those are the three that stand outs for me on that record. But I like how that record starts, and I like when his vocals first come in. It's got the it's got that the crescendo. It's what do you call it?
Reverse,
the pre-delay.
Pre-delay,
yeah. I think that's cool. And then the guitar, the octave, the sub-octave on the guitar, whatever that is. Do 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 do. It's just it's a cool little riff coming in to start an album out.
Yeah, I thought that was probably I don't want to say their peak or anything, but I thought that was probably the kind of where it felt okay, you went from garage album, distilled Elephant. Okay, now you're finally doing something different, and to me that was probably if you could say the White Stripe should have ended somewhere, I would have ended with that record instead of Icky Thump, which came next.
I actually didn't know much about Icky Thump until I listened to more of it. I only had known a couple tunes, but I actually liked that album more than I thought it did.
It's good.
It's a great record.
I thought that was a little too hyped up though. Recording wise,
that song,
I felt like that was way over the top with kick drum sound and stuff.
Yeah,
I haven't listened to that album in a long time. And then it had a lot of the. Isn't that the one with the conquistador kind of sounds and stuff?
Yeah,
Conquest.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. It's
Rag and Bone. I love
Rag and Bone rocks.
Yeah, I like that song a lot, man. Like I said, I don't remember. I never owned that record, so I had to go back and listen to it.
I'm Slowly Turning Into You was the jam, in my opinion. That's the one that started with the dun dun dun.
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah.
Really simple, but just grooves. And if you can pull a bunch of those up on YouTube Live where he's at Coachella or whatever, just rocking that. The interesting thing about that album, Icky Thump, is that obviously that would have been influenced by his wife, Karen Nelson. because she's British, I believe, or
Okay.
what was his wife. And Eki thump is like a saying from British people. I can't
really?
remember what it is, but it's Eki, not icky. So he just went, I'll turn it into icky because that's
He's got a shirt
interesting.
on his website that says "Icky Trump." He sells it on
Icky Trump, yeah.
He sells it on Third Man Records website.
That's
I thought that
great.
was
So he
pretty
must
funny.
not be a Trump
I'm
supporter.
guessing not. No.
So then that would have marked. That's 07 that came out.
Yeah.
So that would have marked.
Icky Trump.
Trump. I love
Funny.
it.
It's just like a
Wow.
red shirt and it's black
That's
writing
awesome.
"Icky Trump." Is all it says.
Hey man,
can
you might as well profit off
May as well
the
make some
president you
money.
don't like.
Yeah.
Why not?
So that would have been 07.
We got to rewind. We got to go back a little.
So
bit.
yeah, we will. But 07 would have marked like his move to Nashville. Right before that,
Traitor.
and he recorded that as the first.
Take it back.
That's
not
the
a
first
traitor.
record that he that I know of anyway that he recorded at Blackbird Studios, which is John McBride's
Right.
studio
Martina
that
Mc-
he's done a
him and
bunch
Martina
of work
McBride,
at
right?
now. Yeah,
That's a
ever since.
fantastic studio too. That's like world class, man.
got a lot
I'd
of
love
old
to.
school mics there.
I'd love to
Yeah,
like
their
rent
mic
that for
locker's
2 days
insane.
and make a record there. Mm-hmm. That'd be sweet.
So if we rewind real quick, going back to Get Behind Me Satan, which was 05, you noted some of your favorite tunes. I think you said My Doorbell,
Denial Twist.
Denial Twist, and I put
Ooh,
on
okay.
my list a song called White Moon, which is just him on the piano. White moon, my singing's terrible. Brings hope through a tune, whatever. And the deserted cartoon that I wrote. Like, just very simple, stripped down. And then Instinct Blues, that's the one where he's like, well, the ants get it. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
yeah.
dun, dun, and the bugs get it. Dun,
Yeah,
dun,
yeah.
But why don't you get it? That was the shit. And then Little Ghost, which was
Oh, yeah.
him on like it was like a mandolin or
mandolin, yeah.
something, right?
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good tune.
which one is it the one that starts out doom 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 doom? It's on the. Is that?
Oh
on the
yeah,
marimba?
that's yeah. Dun.
I don't know what song that is. It's gonna drive me nuts.
Yeah,
now.
my brain is like
Don't ask me because I don't know anything about song names.
yeah.
I make up my own names for songs.
That marimba tune.
My
marimba
brain
tune.
doesn't work today, but so yeah, and then if you okay, can we touch on that one for a second more?
Yeah.
Okay, so Get Behind Me Satan I thought was like an interesting title. You have you can take it both ways, right? It's kind of double entendre. Get behind me, like get away from me, or back me up. Get behind me.
That's
Yeah,
how I
Satan.
took it, but
Okay.
I took
And-
it as saying "get away from me," but
Okay.
that's just I don't know. Knowing that he was like raised sort of
Catholic
religious
and
and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a very religious guy. So I thought that album cover was interesting artwork. He had on the cover, I think it was him or Meg was holding an apple, and it was a white apple. And obviously we all know, the temptation and
Right.
all that goes along with the apple. But I thought that was kind of a cool, like, just like a step away from like, hey, I'm jamming out to a 4-track type thing. Like I'm just here to play dirty punk rock or whatever. I thought that was a step in the
it
right
had a
direction.
different theme, different look and feel to it.
Yeah.
It seemed like a
A little more refined.
yeah.
It just felt like it was refined a little more.
That's when he started like wearing that terrible mustache.
devil's
Remember,
mustache.
but like I mean, he like took on a different look.
Yeah.
I think that was him kind of distancing himself from what he'd done already.
He's very into
Maybe not
the,
distancing himself, but maybe growing. Just
Growing.
growing. You know what I mean?
But look at everything he's done. We'll get into the solo career stuff later. But I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a different look for pretty much everything he does. I mean, like everything from the way he dresses to like his hairstyles and the clothes he wears, the way the albums look. I mean, everything. I think he does everything with a very keen eye on like the aesthetics of things, like the way things look. I think he's very
Well, look at like
Yeah.
the record press plant and stuff.
Yeah,
he's got.
black
I mean,
and
it's
yellow.
Like,
Everything
yeah,
is
it
black
like,
and
looks
yellow.
Sweet man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just like, damn.
yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody knew what they were talking about here. I mean,
Yeah,
it's bold. It's like a bold statement like that. You know, I mean, to like say like I'm going to commit to like this bright yellow and black. You know, I mean, for like this whole factory. Something. You know, I mean, that's like to me like just that's commitment. You know, which is I mean why he is successful. I think because he just commits.
Well, he says like in the different interviews that he talks about like with the White Stripes, the whole, you know, everything is red, white, black. You know, we put the peppermint swirl on the kick drum. You know, they were obsessed with the number 3. Like there was 3 in everything they did, pretty much. He talks about that, and he's like, it's not like doing it just for the sake of having a gimmick, but he's like, you know, teenagers and young people like that listen to music, they're always kind of latching on to some sort of a gimmick, and if something that he's doing like that draws them in to like get them to actually listen to what he's doing, like to what he's saying in the music, or the fact that he's just trying to play the blues, like his version of the blues or whatever, like then that's fine. Like he's like, I have no problem with that. He's like, it's just a means to get people interested to listen to what you're trying to do.
I mean, I never felt intentionally he was trying to be gimmicky, you know? Like, I mean, I think it's just trying to set a mood and a tone, you know? Like, we keep saying gimmick, you know? But
he
like,
says the word gimmick, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
he does say that.
I don't think
in
he's
an
doing
interview,
it just to create a gimmick like Kiss, you know?
Yeah, right.
For the sake, I think it's all part of the overall vision for him, but I think he's aware of it's branding. Like he's trying to create like when you think of White Stripes, what do you think of? Red, white, black, peppermint swirl, you know, 2 people. When you think of, you know, Third Man Records, you think black and yellow, like you think it's pretty intentional, I think. But not for the sake of, you know, like this is the only thing behind it. I mean, I don't mean to rip on Kiss, but when you strip away the makeup, like
there's not much there.
Right. In my opinion,
there's not too many.
I probably pissed off a lot of. Sweet.
I probably just pissed off a lot of people off.
Dick, bro.
He's talking about his dick. See, Ronnie?
He's talking.
The gun is his dick.
I like some Kiss songs, but seriously, man. I mean, I don't want to get on a tangent, but I mean, like, there's a big difference between, like, the whole after you get done with the makeup and the chaps and all that shit.
Let's be honest. I mean, Kiss was like licensed to action figures and lunch boxes. Yeah, I mean that's profit. A total like, you know what I mean? It's like it's one thing if you're like an independent artist, like, hey, I'm gonna make my own lunch boxes or something. But like when you're just like a machine, I mean, they're like right up there with Hot Wheel cars and stuff. You know, like
no, that's true.
That's a total gimmick and excuse me, it's hard to find like, you know, I guess. I just like for me, I just never connected with with Kiss because like that gimmick was just like, oh, cool. They're like trying to be cool, you know. Like, and I didn't just believe, you know, I just couldn't get into it, you know. Whereas like if Jack White has his gimmick or whatever, it still felt real to me, you know. It felt like, you know, he had like an artsier edge with things, not necessarily the songwriting, but like that whole image. So it's not like I guess I just treat like gimmicky as bad. You know, when it's not really a negative word, you know, like, but I think it's more correct to say the way he branded it was, you know, because he knew specifically what he wanted. You know, I heard one time Jimmy Page, and this thing always stuck with me. He said, like, when it came to like Led Zeppelin, he wanted artistic control and a vice grip. You know, like, and he wanted like Jimmy Page has controlled the destiny of Led Zeppelin. From day one, and that was like there was no, like he's like when we sign a contract, like I get producer control, I get, you know, so he had final say on everything. If he didn't like Bonham's snare sound, that was up to Jimmy Page.
He could
he could pick any of the engineers he wanted to, and you know you get like somebody that has this vision that can do what they need to do, and you know same things. You could say Led Zeppelin is gimmicky, you know, but I mean they branded themselves to be a certain type of music, and I always think of like the White Stripes kind of the same way. Like I think. Jack White like knew, you know, he had that I want an artistic control and a vice grip. Like we're gonna be white and red, and we're gonna have this peppermint swirl on the drum head because this is the image that I want. We're
gonna commit to it, do it with conviction.
And when you go, you know, when you see him like through the different eras and stuff, like there was always, you know, there was always like this persona, like even like the early stuff, you know, he might be wearing like red pants and a white shirt, you know, and it's like, here we go. Like, you know, he's there to do that. Like he's never showing up and like, here's my, you know, my Rolling Stones t-shirt and ripped jeans, you know, like every other band was doing. Like, I mean, they always had like
that's true,
a certain image, you know? So I think of it kind of like that whole Jimmy Page ethos of like, I'm going to control my destiny, and like, hey, if we get huge, we get huge. I mean, and look, I mean, he's on par with the Led Zeppelins of the world, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, not to discount Kiss, because I mean, I think Gene Simmons kind of did the same thing, right? Like, he was like, I'm going to control, you know, we're going to control our merchandise and our marketing, but it's just a total different angle. Like, do you let the music control it, and you're controlling an image as well, or are you just like mass marketing, trying to, you know, get 8-year-olds to like you?
Yeah, well, the Kiss thing was all about the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and there's a lot of bands that were inspired by Kiss, not because of their songwriting or because they're, you know, I mean, a lot of people will talk about how much they like Ace Frehley and stuff like that, you know, but it was all about the whole the fantasy of being a rock star, you know. But when you hear people talk about like the Beatles and shit, that was more about like the talent of songwriting and all that kind of stuff. So I think of what Jack White was doing was, you know, maybe the whole wearing the certain clothes and the peppermint swirl was like, that might have been a gimmick, but the overall thing wasn't a gimmick. But when I look at Kiss and I look at Poison and all that those were gimmick bands.
All gimmicks.
It was all gimmick. There's no substance behind it, as far as I'm concerned. But you know, that's just my opinion. So.
Yeah, it doesn't mean Kiss doesn't have a good song or two, but I mean, Beth is not the most magical song I've ever heard. The most romantic song, you know.
Play some Beth.
I hear you calling.
Yeah, I don't know if Jack White ever wrote a gem like Beth.
I think he's still aspiring.
What's this icky thump bullshit?
Yeah, what is this shit?
Come on,
this is way
write
too
something like Beth.
Yeah.
Come on, Peter Criss was the drummer and he got to sing it.
He was the cat, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I think so. Yeah, the cat, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. So yeah, I always thought like the gimmick thing was more or less just to lure you in. You know, like you said, like.
But not to lure you in with any fakeness. I mean, I think it's just it's like a Coca-Cola logo. You know, it's Coca-Cola. You know, even if they wrote a Coca-Cola in a different language,
it's so smart,
right?
Though.
You know?
It's so smart and simple.
Yeah. There was a lot of garage bands back then. Like, you know, I was looking at like the Paybacks, and like we used to listen to bands like the Lantern Jack, and that was around that time.
So the guy that wore the goat head on his head?
Yeah, we played with them or saw them play at times.
That's scary shit, man.
I forget there was another band.
You wear goat head, you're
Queen Bee.
Queen Bee. Yeah.
But that whole garage rock.
But even that was less of the garage. That was a little more like just dirtier rock.
Yeah.
You know, like the garage rock was even more like stripped down. You know, in a way.
Well, it's
I guess
interesting.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
But they separated
rock,
themselves, obviously, and it was just another thing that you could say. It's like, oh yeah, those are the guys that were all red and white, right? Although that's the that's a 2-person band with the guy and his sister, or like they, you know,
that are doing like blues tunes and stuff.
Yeah,
like, I think it's on Distill or whatever. That Southern Can song, Southern Can.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You know,
Southern
that's an old like Sun House or something.
I want to talk about that record.
But that's my
some notes on that one.
When I think of White Stripes, I always think of that song first because it's like on a tuned down.
What a cool tune!
Yeah, it's a tuned down 12-string acoustic guitar, and it's like super loose, and it's just like, dude, he hit it out of the park with that one.
Yeah.
You know? Now, I mean, I know it's a cover or whatever, or I think it's a cover. I'm assuming it's a cover.
What song is that?
It's called Your Southern Can Belongs to Me or whatever.
Yep. Your Southern Can Belongs to Me.
Yeah, it's a cool tune, man. Mm-hmm. It's cool. It's fun to play on guitar. Like I said, it's on a 12-string that's like, you know, it's tuned down.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, gimmick, no gimmick, whatever. I'm trying to put myself... You know, we would have been juniors, seniors in high school when they started playing live shows, you know, and it's like, man, if Detroit's hard now to get some kind of credit from in the scene, even in the 90s, it was probably even harder.
I don't even know that he got that much credit.
I don't think
I think he had to tour and work his ass off to get the credit.
Well, and then part of the reason
I think they gave him the credit after he got famous, and then everybody wanted a piece of him.
Well, and then all the other bands were getting
bro.
pissed because they, like he said, there's a lot of jealousy, and like he said, one of the reasons he left was it was like there's just all these cynical people, and it's just like they started to get some mainstream recognition, and it didn't go over well with some of the other.
Instead of people being like, dude, I'm so happy for you because you like work your ass off, bro.
Yeah, his whole thing in that video I was watching today was like, our whole thought was, if one of us, can get some attention, probably similar to the grunge thing, it starts to provide more like attention to the other bands in the scene. It just sheds more light on it. And obviously not everybody thought that way,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe some of the other bands were too stale, maybe just people didn't like them. They were stale sounding bands.
Maybe.
I mean, the White Stripes were just a fresh band, like to a lot of people outside of Detroit. I don't know. I can remember though playing like in our first bands and stuff, and seeing like Lily's Gold Dollar flyers in like the Metro Times, and the White Stripes are playing a Thursday night or something.
Yeah.
Like thinking, who's the White Stripes? I didn't know.
We went to this goes to like is it distill or how do you say
Distilled?
that? I don't know how you say
distilled.
that.
It's
It's a Dutch word that means the style.
I could be getting my dates wrong.
But yeah, it's an art thing. Movement.
Yeah, I think we were going to like some record. I think it was like Record Time or some store that you could listen to CDs, before you bought them. And it had that CD in there, and I'm like, listen to it, and I thought like, this is the worst. Like this. Why are these guys so hyped up in Detroit? This shit sucks, right? And I made a note to myself.
I love it.
No, I did. Like
Jay telling it like it is.
At that time, I didn't get
Throwing down the honesty.
Jay's
like, we need artists like Barry Manilow.
Right.
That's a real artist.
No, I listened to it and thought it was just horrible. I'd heard all this hype. I didn't get it. There's no bass, low fidelity recording, drums played by someone that sounded like they just learned how to play, guitars with missed and sometimes out of two notes, vocals out of key. Now that same album is probably my favorite White Stripes record.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It's gone around. Like, and listen to it. Like, there's other White Stripes records where like, oh, I love that song, I like that song, but I'm like, I could.
That whole record.
But like that whole record, like I listened to it front to back, and I'm like, dude, like this, like I could just put this whole thing on and listen to it. And
it's a good record, man.
But back then, that's how much. Like,
I bought that CD at Harmony House.
Wow.
Oh,
so
wow.
that was a long time ago.
So that came out in 2000.
Yeah, I totally didn't get the White Stripes.
I must have bought it like right when it came out then, because I don't know when Harmony House closed, but.
Yeah. Ed, you're pretty good looking for a girl.
Yep.
Hello, Operator.
Yep.
I got a little bird. Apple Blossom.
Love Apple Blossom. I like Death Letter.
Death Letter. Let's Build a Home.
That's a Son House song, right?
I don't know.
Yes.
Death
Letter is a
Son
Son House. Let's Build a Home. And Why Can't You Be Nicer to Me?
Yeah, that's a good one, dude.
Which is really good.
I gotta go back and listen to that one again. It didn't stick out to me, but the whole record, I like it.
So I made a note on here too. That's interesting
a good song.
fact.
Why Can't You Be Nicer to Me? That's a good one.
So 99 was their self-titled record.
Jimmy
I would
the Exploder.
assume they maybe worked on that for a year or two or whatever. And then 2000, 1 year in between, was Distilled, or however the hell you say it. It doesn't matter.
Distilled.
But I made a note on here that, because Ed and I will leave our opinions out of this and edit it if we don't. But, Jim Diamond did their self-titled.
Yes.
And then we all know Jim.
Yes.
And then...
Jim's cool. I like
great
Jim.
Guy. Yeah, no,
great guy. Does great work.
But we all know the beef between
beef.
Jim Diamond and Jack White, and
who knows?
That's why I mentioned this. So then 2000 comes around, and White recorded that all himself in his bedroom or whatever, house or whatever. So did he steal Jim Diamond's approach to things? I don't know. Was that Jack White's approach, and he just said, "Jim, this is how I want it to sound," or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, what's the
I don't know.
What's the approach? I mean, you put a mic in front of something and hit record on tape. I mean,
And
I'm not trivializing Jim Diamond did or what Jack White did. But I mean, it's like that's the art of recording. I mean,
Yep.
you know, like I mean, to me, that's just like I think the argument was, but I'm not entirely sure. Jay's looking at me like we're editing all this shit out, bro.
Yeah.
No, man. I
And-
actually made a note that we should bring this up.
I
figured
think
you
the
would.
argument
Okay.
was though is that
Yeah, please. No, I'm good right now. But
I think the argument was that basically like Jim Diamond created just the overall like guitar sound.
yeah,
You
like
know,
the
and stuff like
overall
that.
like
Yeah,
lo-fi.
Yeah, and like here's what like you
Silvertone.
should like use this amp, you know, and this will sound good with this guitar.
And, like,
I
that
don't know if that's
somehow
true, but that's what I always got was like
Deserves
his argument.
royalties of some
Yeah,
sort.
because of that. And
It's
I
like
mean,
the total opposite of like Albini's thinking, right?
Right. Yeah.
complete
exactly.
one-
yeah,
yeah.
Albini's like royalties are theft. And
All I did
stuff.
was
Yeah.
capture a moment in time. Really,
Right.
like I'm not.
I just hit record.
Pay me my hourly rate. I'll wear my coveralls and just push the button.
Yep.
Yeah, until you find out his hourly rate, and you go,
Right.
well, okay, cool.
Wait, your hourly rate is $3,000.
I mean, it's
whatever. I don't
it's
know.
Whatever. I
garage
think it's like
rock.
$2,200 a day or something.
It's
Yeah.
garage rock. I mean, it's like then I guess Robert Pollard, whoever his name is, should be like giving royalties to whoever recorded all the guided by voices stuff because all that shit sounds the same too.
Well,
I mean,
no, but it's traditional in music that you producer. If you're a producer, you get royalties.
yeah.
But I mean, the thing is like you know, me as a studio owner, I don't get royalties off people because I don't act as a producer. I act as like a Steve Albini guy. Like, oh, I'm going to capture you and I'm going to give you like my sound and I'll probably give you things here and there. But if somebody like totally blew up, I don't know that I'd be like, I'm taking these guys to court because that snare sound I came up with. It's like, well, you know, he tuned it. I put a mic on it. Maybe I EQ'd it a certain
Maybe
way.
put a
Or maybe
Mojo
you said
on it.
tune
Yeah.
it differently.
Yeah,
but-
maybe I said tune it differently, but that's just my job as an engineer. Now, you know, if I was like telling somebody, hey, I really think your band's awesome, why don't you come to my studio and record? And, you know, I'm going to act in the capacity of a producer. And when you make it big, I'm going to get some royalties. But if somebody's paying me an hourly rate, you know, to me, we're fair and square. Like, to me, and I mean, legally, you should be probably, you know, bands should be like signing off on that. Like, you know, we owe you no future royalties because, you know, you were paid in full. But, I mean, it's just like, I just kind of always understood it as a studio owner. Like, hey, unless I'm sitting down with a contract saying I produced. So I don't know all the terms. I don't know if Jim Diamond had that or, you know, I don't know if he did the recording pro bono. And then, you know, because those to me all are irrelevant. I mean, if he did it pro bono, then, you know, I don't know. Maybe you should get some kind of royalty off
Wouldn't
of it.
all that
you
should
know?
be discussed though, like ahead
Well,
of time?
that's what I'm saying. You should have all that. I mean,
I
that's
mean, I
like-
don't know, and like those records sound good for what they are, but like I don't really hear those albums sounding that much different with another producer or another
They
engineer.
don't. I mean, that sound to me is like, it's like look at the Zeppelin stuff with Bonham. We all know what Bonham sounds like, right? Like you can hear Bonham. I mean, and
He
everything.
could
It's
be
like,
recorded on Pro
yeah,
Tools.
and,
you know
there's
it's
all
Bonham.
different kinds of engineers that recorded Zeppelin stuff, you know. And it's like it's always Bonham. Dave Grohl's another one on drums. Like I can always tell his drumming, his drum sound, like whether it's Nevermind or In Utero or, I mean, to me the drums all sound the same, even though they're recorded entirely different, you know.
That
But I
would-
mean, it still sounds like Dave Grohl, you know.
Yeah,
That would be another argument for why I love Meg White as a drummer. I can tell it's Meg
You
White.
can tell it's her.
It doesn't matter what it
she's
is.
She's unique. Yeah, I mean,
Like, so I have here the 7-inch Hello Operator.
oh yeah, with
B-sided
Jolene.
with Jolene,
Ooh.
and that I want you to play. But
me see it.
the reason why I picked this out,
no, you can't
the
have
reason
it.
why I picked this out I picked it out for Jolene because that was a B-side that was never on the album that I want to listen to.
They played that. They played Jolene live too. when we
You
saw
just
them, I
like that
remember.
hot picture of Meg White on the
I
front.
like the Meg White picture, but I also wanted to point out to Ed, do you know who took this picture?
If I had to guess, Marcy Bolan.
No.
No, I don't know.
That was E-Wolf.
Really?
Remember E-Wolf?
E-Wolf took that picture.
From Tim Pack's crew?
Yeah.
Yeah, E-Wolf took that photo.
Wow. I didn't know. I
Yeah,
know
it was
Marcy
credited
Bolan
on the back.
Wasn't she hanging out with them at that time too?
I have no clue. But I do know that E-Wolf took that photo.
yeah.
'Cause he's credited.
That's cool.
Is that like one of those reissued ones?
I think that's a
Yeah.
reissue, I'm sure. Yeah.
So Meg White played the drums and
And Sand. and Jack White played like rubbing alcohol or something on there.
He played guitar, vocal, and rubbing wood. So I don't know if is that a double entendre?
I don't know what the hell.
Rubbing wood?
Can we play that?
What are you trying to say?
Or should we just keep going?
I can
the
put it on
episode?
the background if you want. I don't care.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, here, edit this out.
Yeah.
But what he'll do
No,
is
no,
he'll just,
pause.
talk amongst yourselves.
he can play it. He can play it like later on.
Like later. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
You know
I
what
can
I'm saying?
fly
Like,
it in.
Fly
he'll
it
fly
in.
it in and then be
Fly
like,
it
oh,
in.
here's Jolene, and then
Yeah.
now. I mean, if you want to play it now so we can hear it and talk about it, is that what you want to do? You want to discuss Jolene? Or
I
just-
don't need to. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
Jolene.
I just thought that was cool that, you know, that would have been 2000. You're doing a Dolly Parton tune.
Yeah.
Not many people are covering a Dolly Parton tune. So,
Yeah, I mean, in the circles I ran in, I don't remember anybody saying like Dolly Parton is
Yeah,
like
like,
Circles.
something.
hey, we're
I mean, you know, it's like legit. It's like
The crew.
It's like
I was-
that's
in
cool.
that downriver.
the posse that I ran with back
I mean,
in the day.
well, you know what I'm saying. The circles we were hanging out in.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody covering Dolly Parton.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
like we were.
I was
different
thinking
breed,
like 9
you
to
know?
5, that movie or whatever.
I saw a video of him playing live, playing an Iggy Pop cover called "On Board," which I thought was cool too. Have you ever heard him do that one?
Nah,
I don't know if it's on any records or anything, but it was part of that documentary that I sent you guys a link to.
The Dutch one
yeah.
or whatever?
They were
Yeah.
playing that. I'm like, dude, that's a cool song. Like, what the hell is that song? And then he mentioned it was someone mentioned, Iggy Pop or something. I looked it up and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I actually like the White Stripes version
White
better.
Stripes,
So that was cool.
Well, there you have it.
Distill or distilled or whatever.
Distill.
Yeah.
Distill.
What a great record band. And, like, I guess we would have been 20 around that release. So you'd have
What
been
was that,
24.
99?
25.
99 was it?
2000.
I would have been 21.
I was almost 22, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so we were a little.
I was old. I was
Okay.
an old man.
So, I mean, still, though.
No,
Jack-
but that was like when I was
Yeah.
still like loving music. That not that I don't love music now, but you're still like in that. I'm like discovering all this new stuff, and I'm like wanting to find new bands right now. Like I'm less into that now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more into like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this White Stripes record, and that's cool. I don't want to hear.
Yeah,
Like
for me,
new
it's
stuff,
It's more like rediscovering the stuff that I
Yeah.
didn't even know about back then. Like, oh yeah, like because like I said,
Or
like,
the stuff you might have just heard.
Yeah.
Like you said, you heard it, and you're like,
Like-
well, this sucks. What's
Yeah.
up with that?
That's
I
how I
always
felt
liked
about the
the-
Dead Weather the first time I heard it.
And I
was
always
like,
liked
this
the
is
lo-fi
terrible.
aesthetic though, because I liked a lot of that Canadian lo-fi stuff.
Yeah.
like Elevator to Hell and like that was like my jam.
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's like
Eric's
that was
Trip.
like to me that was like whoa, this is like lo-fi. Like White Stripes was like lo-fi, but like better than
Yeah, and
lo-fi.
I should have liked White Stripes and all that more than I did back then because I loved like Archers of Loaf and some of the Pavement stuff and Superchunk and some of that.
Yeah.
Like Archers of Loaf first record is very like garage rock, indie rock sounding, but it didn't sound anything like White Stripes. But
I feel
the
like
noisier rock
It's
stuff.
it's still got the same kind of recording.
Like,
Yeah.
It just
style
didn't
and
click
stuff.
with me, like
I
I
feel
was
like-
so the more precise playing, like I didn't really get it. Now I get it, and I appreciate what's going on more.
Yeah, I think it's also you grew up with it in your backyard, so it's the guy
you
down the
don't.
road.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
guy that I
you
saw
know.
at Paychecks.
Yeah,
like
that doesn't register with
right.
you.
You're
you
like,
know?
well, who cares? I can, walk into the Magic Stick and he's sitting there drinking a beer or whatever.
Well, and I
Yeah.
thought too, like
Right, I
back
think
then
you're
it was
right.
like we were so like big on like being so good at our instruments, right? Like I'm gonna be the best drummer I can be or best guitar player. Like we're gonna, the way we always thought when we go on stage, like we're gonna be the tightest band
Yeah,
up here,
we,
right?
we had a
We're like-
competitive mentality.
Yeah, and you're like, you can hear it by listening to that. It's like he didn't give a shit about that. Like that's not
No.
what he's about.
Well, I mean,
Okay,
but I mean,
In
but
a
when you
different
listen
I
to
would
it,
argue in a
but
different
when you
sense that
listen
he
to
is
it
into
though,
that.
but when you listen to it,
yeah, it doesn't have the like.
and you're like that person, you're
Right.
thinking of all. It's like I would never let myself like make a mistake like that on a record and not fix it. Or how could he let himself go out of key like that and keep it? Like, doesn't he hear that? And it's not about that. Like when you listen to
Yeah.
the whole thing, it's like, yeah, if the whole record was him singing perfect, then he hit this bum note, then yeah, you're gonna
Right.
say that's weird. But when the whole album is this whole feel
Yeah.
is, hey dude, we're just in the moment, we're capturing a moment. It's not about that. It's not about like that one note. It's just about the whole feel of it, the whole sound. It makes sense then. But back then I didn't get that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he still had the same mentality. Like, I'm gonna go out here and slay. You know, like we're gonna do what we do, and we're gonna just like destroy this crowd.
Yeah, but slay from a different angle.
Well, you saw the Lars Ulrich interview with him, right? Where he's like, Lars, did you watch that one?
I didn't watch that one.
Okay, so Lars talks about meeting Jack White. This was recently, like not long ago. I don't even think it was with the White Stripes.
It was a solo stuff.
I think it was a solo stuff. And he said, like, Jack White invited Lars into his bus or whatever it was, and Jack White like took this fucking baseball bat and just started smashing shit, like breaking shit, and Lars was like, what the fuck is going on, you know? And Jack White's like, that's just how I get, like, this is how I get in the zone, man. It's a fight out there. He's like, I want it to be like a fight, so I gotta prepare myself for a fight.
Wow.
You know,
jeez,
because he said he met Iggy Pop. And Jack White met Iggy, and he was like hanging out with him during the day. This was before, and everything was cool. Yeah. And he went to see Iggy before the goddamn show.
And he's a totally different person.
And Iggy was like cool, and then all of a sudden he like, they were talking about cars, and Jack White was like, oh yeah, I used to have this, blah blah blah, and Iggy was like, really? And he like gave him this death stare, and Jack was like, did I fucking say something wrong? You know, like, this guy wants to fight me right now. And like one of his buddies was like, no, dude, it's just how he gets, like, he's getting into show mode right now, you know? And so it's the same thing, you know, we all want to go out there, we want to play a killer show, we want to be the best. I feel like Jack White, you know, there's a part in under the, which I have up here, record version of
Great Northern Lights or whatever.
Great Northern Lights,
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, you can watch the documentary.
Like I said, I'm bad with titles.
You know, and Meg White's like, I'm sorry I didn't play a good show tonight. And Jack would say, no, I thought you played a really good show tonight. You know, like, so probably that looseness or whatever was what he was looking for. That was his idea of perfection.
Yeah, I really feel it's about a moment. You know, it's about, like, we captured this moment in time that's never, like, that mistake you make, you might never make that mistake ever again.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, if you're there to appreciate that, I mean, I think that's just a refreshing approach to looking at things and trying to be, like, perfectionist and beating yourself up, you know.
We were just trained so technically, you know.
Yeah.
It's
well,
just
and I think, too, the music we play that we're traditionally playing, I mean, like, stuff I'm doing now with Ryan, like playing with Matt DeMitz and stuff. It's a little looser in times, and there's things where we're pulling back on beats and things, and you know it's still like precise, and we still go out there with that same mentality. But I can definitely respect more of like a performance with a mistake in it or whatever, and that crowd interaction, you know, like feeding off the crowd.
I just can't imagine going into the studio and like having this approach, like when I came and recorded with you, you know, for the latest single, and, you know, having you in there and be like, oh, you know, I'd probably back off a little bit on this, you know, or be like, oh, that's good enough. That's good. That take was fine. You know, like I could have chosen out of the however many takes I did of certain parts, you know, I could have chosen any one of them and said, oh, that sounds good, man. That's cool. But like, I can't imagine like having a flub or having something that just didn't feel like locked in totally and be like, oh, that's cool. Let's ride with that. You know, but it's a different kind of music. It's a different, you know, it's just different.
But I mean, some of the best recordings have mistakes in them. You know, there's mistakes throughout Zeppelin stuff. There's mistakes in Nevermind even has mistakes in it. You know, like,
so,
I mean, like, and I mean, that's like a polished record, but you know, there's a note or two in there that's wrong, you know?
Things you can find.
It's probably part of a bigger discussion, but you look at the albums we talked about so far. Yeah. Like what? Okay, so you know, there's obviously fuck ups in these songs. You know what makes the White Stripes so much better than any other, you know, garage rock or you know lo-fi thing? I mean, why does the White Stripes blow up and you know Elevator to Hell didn't? You know, like what? I mean, is it just better songs? Is it the gimmick part of it?
I think it's a different like. I mean, I think Jack White still has like that rock and roll mentality, whereas like Elevator to Hell, you know, it kind of had like, I'm gonna do this in my bedroom, and you know maybe the dude's a little too stoned, you know, because he's always like tripping and smoking weed and stuff.
Because I pulled a quote from Jack White, and it was funny because it was in, I think it was in that show too. But he's like,
did you guys see the Dan Rather interview with him?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That thing's fantastic.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And that suit he's wearing is badass.
He's like, we had
Nice. That plaid, it's like a plaid, like brown plaid suit.
Says we had no business being in the mainstream. We assumed the music we were making was private in a way. We were from the scenario that there are 50 people in every town. Something about us was beyond our control. Now it's 500 people. Now it's the second night. What's going on? Is everybody out of their minds? And that was just him talking about. He didn't think, he's like, this band's not going to write top 40 songs.
No one's going to get this shit.
You know? Yeah. I mean, we can talk later about how successful their albums were, but, the guy's got 12 Grammys. I mean,
wow.
But, I mean, it's the same as Nirvana, right? Like, I mean, they didn't go out there going, we're going to be the biggest band that ever existed. And, I mean, Nevermind blew up. Like, it's like sometimes you capture something that the public just is like, whoa, I need something fresh. Yeah, it's the lightning in a bottle kind of thing. And I think like with the White Stripes, it's just there's an honesty and a purity in music. It's like punk rock, it makes it approachable to people. So like if you're a kid, if you're like a 13-year-old kid that's just learning to play, you're like, shit, this is like a good song, a cool song. It sounds cool sonically. Everything sounds cool. Sonically, like the drums sound awesome. Even on the most lo-fi of their recordings, like they still sound like drums. Like how we would capture drums with like one mic when we're like poor kids in our parents' basement, And it's like, so this is really accessible. Like, of course I'm gonna like them.
And to me, that's inspirational. Like you hear a band like that, it's like that did this lo-fi recording. It's like shit, we could do this. Like, I mean, you can't. You don't play like Jack White, right?
You think about
but
that,
you're like, shit.
But that's more attainable than like,
the
Dragon
Black
Force
album
or Dragon
yeah,
Force.
Yeah.
How do I shred like that guy? Oh, well, spend 10 years locked in your bedroom learning every mode and scale,
and get like the best studio.
Yeah.
Well, how can I be in my basement and record a drum sound like Bob Rock and the Black album that took them 9 months to get?
Right, and you find they're cutting tape for months and months to get all the fills lined up and stuff.
But hey, we did it. Let's put two mics up behind a couple blankets, and and like aim them the right way and record 11 songs.
Sometimes that's the way it goes, and I think I could be wrong. It might be White Blood Cells. It might be Distilled. It might be. It's one of those. Elephant. Were recorded in like a few days.
Yeah,
$5,000 budget.
A couple of these records were
so.
Which I mean, I think is awesome because
I think so too.
And that's like one of the reasons why I like Led Zeppelin, because they were recording things like on the road. Hey, when you get in the studio, because I need to like cut this guitar solo on, Whole Lot of Love or something. You know, and it's like everything's like fast and furious, and you're not having time to like belabor the point. It's like here it is, bam, you're capturing it, and that's where like guys like I think like Steve Albini and stuff like that's where they resonate with me as like an engineer, is because like they're trying to capture that moment. They're not trying to capture like like there's clearly a difference in sound and emotion to, let's say, a musician between White Stripes and Nickelback, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, you hear like Nickelback and it's like it's just sterile and polished.
Yep.
And there's not that emotion in there. Like, I mean, no matter what, the guy's like screaming his head off on a song that's supposed to be emotional. It's just like, you're like, I don't really feel this.
So you're saying you don't like Nickelback? Just want to make sure we get that.
They're my favorite band, but
you're just trying to be objective.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be objective.
Yeah. Ed's endorsed by the same string company as, so he can't talk.
Yeah, so I can't talk. I'm contractually obligated not talking about Nickelback.
When I did the interview with Chris Slapnick from Ava Under Fire, he mentioned that at one time he had stopped playing PRS and Mesas because the guy from Nickelback was playing. So he purposely stopped playing. He didn't want to be like in any way tied to it.
Why won't Ed play PSR guitars?
PRS.
Sorry.
Why won't I, Ryan?
I don't know. So you know what though? I gotta jump around real quick before I forget, because I'm gonna forget this point.
Jump around.
So you take those records, which were recorded in a few days, really simple, in a living room, whatever, and then you go to Jack White Today. What? I don't own the record yet because I haven't had time to go out and grab it. But Boarding House Reach, his newest solo record. All Pro Tools.
Really?
Recorded between LA and New York. Didn't want to go to Nashville to record. Didn't record in his own studio. He used all musicians from hip-hop records. From like Kanye to Jay-Z. He wanted a very intensive edit, like for each song on Pro Tools. Didn't go to tape or anything. It's interesting. What is his mentality behind this shift?
I just think he can't stand to really do the same thing twice.
I think you get bored.
And, this might be, honestly, out of all the stuff I heard, it's my least favorite thing.
Yeah, I don't really.
I don't like
nothing said to me like you got to go buy this record right now.
I've listened to it. I've listened to it front to back.
You have?
Yeah, I don't have it, but I've listened to it on Spotify.
Of course, Jay has.
Well,
Jay is the music man.
Listen to it on the way to work.
Man.
I drive an hour to work.
Yeah,
every
I know.
day.
You got time.
It's a long drive, so I listen to it. I just didn't. It just
sounds
didn't.
more experimental than anything.
There's a song called "Why Walk a Dog," I think, which I thought was okay, but like the rest.
Walk a dog because it's healthy for the dog.
Why walk a dog? It just wasn't the most. It just I don't know. Your question was about why
why the shift to
Yeah, I just think he just wanted to try something different.
Hey
just
man,
like
in
Bowie
10 years
was
we might
like
be
that
sitting
too.
here doing a podcast. And then we'll be pulling up the soundbite. You going? It's my least favorite shit. And then you'll be going. That's the best stuff I've ever heard.
It very
that he's
well
done.
could be. Yeah,
you never know how
yeah.
your shit.
Yeah, it's like maybe he's so far ahead. I haven't heard any of it. So
I just didn't hear enough. There was
nothing.
nothing memorable about it. Like the songs didn't really. There wasn't anything like, oh man, I like that tune. Like melody wise, it just sounds like a lot. There's a lot of like crazy sound effects and like a lot of stuff that, just to me, it's almost like this. Just for the sake of having these crazy sounds and these crazy sequences going on, where it didn't do anything for me. But it is very different. It's a very different sounding album. I'd much rather listen to Blunderbuss or Lazaretto. But it's just because, I don't know, maybe I'm just not, I haven't given enough chance yet. But
yeah, I would be interested in actually hearing the demos that he did for the recording. Because what he did was he rented out an apartment in, I think it was Nashville, and he took his original 4-track from when he was a kid, went up and recorded all the demos to this record. I bet you those are cool.
Killer.
Yeah. Before you hand it off to people and they ruin it in a sense, or whatever.
Well, that's like Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. If you're familiar with that album, that ended up being the original demos.
It was
what they released.
The
because he demoed it, and then like he took it to the studio, and they were like, he's like, this stuff just does not sound right. Like I prefer the demos, and they were like 4-track demos, and they were damaged somehow. Like I don't know if he threw it in the water or something like that, but the tape was damaged, and they were able to salvage it and stuff. But if you listen to that album, that's like Bruce Springsteen's best album in my opinion. And I'm not a big, I'm not a Boss fan, but like that album is good. There's some gems on that album.
And that was all 4-track.
All 4-track. He's doing harmonies and shit with himself.
Born in the USA, baby.
And he's out of key, and it's just raw, and it's like it's another one of those things that's accessible. And that always brings me back to when I was a kid, wanting to sit in my bedroom with the 4-track, and just record things, and thinking, how cool is this that I can like when you released your Adventures in Lo-Fi.
Yeah.
It's just there's something cool about like having that power to just say, look, for $300 I bought this machine that I can,
express
myself on, and it doesn't sound anything like the Black Album, but it's still awesome.
It's cool in a sense,
I was thinking, why don't we wrap up the White Stripes stuff and then take a break, get a couple more beers, and then let's touch on all the
always gotta have more beers.
Post White Stripes stuff with all the Dead Weather and solo album stuff.
Yeah. So
we haven't talked about.
If I may, let me go to White Blood Cells. So this was 2001.
This
had
Hotel
Dead
Yorba.
Leaves on the Dirty Ground.
Hotel
Yorba.
Love
When
Hotel
you're in your
Yorba.
little room.
Yorba. I love that song, man.
And
that was the one that really hit me onto him.
Love that song.
Was Hotel Yorba.
Yorba.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was on a mixtape from somebody. And I remember like hearing that song going, wow, this is a really cool tune. And I always just remember, because I just always remember driving past the Hotel Yorba as a kid. And like, you know, always like looking at it going, well, you know, what's that place all about?
Yeah.
You know, like
Okay.
on 75, like going to Tiger game or something, you know?
Well, just as Jim Diamond tried to sue for the production credit, whatever.
Did the Hotel Yorba?
I want to sue for the Hotel Yorba.
Okay.
Because I technically wrote that first when I was a kid, but the Eagles would have to sue me as well because I did a Weird Al Yankovic type parody.
A parody of it?
And I said, "Welcome to the Hotel Motherfucking Yorba."
Hell yeah.
And it went, "Such a lovely place, such a lovely place to get shot in the face." And I wrote a whole
Classic
song
Ranzo right
of
there.
the Hotel Yorba before the Hotel Yorba was
Yep.
written by Jack White. So, Jack, I'm suing your ass. And then the Eagles,
And then the Eagles
they can
will sue you.
Yeah, sue me in return.
And
But
But
yeah,
no, that's a good. But I mean, that's, you know, that just shows how iconic that is to people. You know,
Yeah.
like I mean, we all know the Hotel Yorba's still sitting there. You know,
Never seen that place from the inside, but
No.
if
I
you
bet
watch,
you.
if the
Don't
video,
go in there with a black light. I'm sure.
No,
Yeah. And then
Why
it had
Well,
it had a little room on it too, which was that like 30-second song.
yeah,
When you're in your little room.
well,
oh yeah, with the
And
kick
you're
drum.
thinking about something good. You know, and it's just a simple message like, hey man, maybe you've gotten too big for yourself. You need to scale back and think about what's important. You know, and I thought that was a really powerful tune. And then what I thought was cool, which was, I think it was inspired by the movie Citizen Kane, which was The Union Forever.
okay,
That song was the shit. If you don't remember that one, check that. That's one of my favorites. The Union Forever.
okay.
And
That
then
whole album was good. I there wasn't a song I didn't like on that.
Yeah.
This is that album.
And then let's go to Elephant,
Yeah,
which
Elephant.
is 2003. You had, of course,
Yeah.
Every like sports stadium in the country is playing that like
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, it's crazy when I'm watching hockey games and you're hearing the White Stripes, you know, at the Stanley Cup Finals. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, and like half those people, like that's probably the only White Stripes song they know. Well, that
Oh,
or
yeah.
maybe
They might
Icky
not even
Thump,
know
you
Well,
who
it's
that-
to the point though that like I just don't even want to listen to that song anymore. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
I
but
don't
for me,
remember.
I don't. It's like Journey, you know, born and raised in South Detroit, like that tune, like at every Red Wings game, you know. They
Yeah.
drop the music out and everybody screams South Detroit. It's like every time I hear that song now, I'm like, dude, this song's terrible.
I
because of
listen
that.
to it and it's like, you know, like part of me is just like the same thing as you.
I
Like,
thought it was
oh,
a great song when it came out. I was
but
like,
it's
holy
like
shit,
it's
this
not
is,
like
blowing
they
my
didn't
mind,
think
dude.
that was gonna happen.
No,
you know?
they didn't. I mean, they didn't
But
write it for that.
What I love about that is it always makes me think about the movie It Might Get Loud, where Jack White is trying to show the Edge and Jimmy Page how
Oh,
to play
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and the
how to
Edge
play
just
it.
doesn't get it. Like,
Yeah.
he can't.
He's like,
seem to
where's
figure
my
it out."
reverb?
Right.
Yeah,
And
like
delay.
Like Page has got that like. He's got that look, you know. He's
Yeah,
like,
he's like, oh, like,
he's like,
trying to
you
grime it out,
You
like-
can, if you read his mind. It's like, I like this, man. Yeah, this grooving, baby. That's good.
The
And
Edge
then the Edge just like, what now? You're going where? Like
Yeah,
what now?
it's
What?
the easiest
And
riff.
White's
Yeah,
trying
like,
to.
that should be like everybody's first song that they learn.
Yeah.
Like
That's
Jack's
Nirvana.
trying to like
That's,
show him how to play it, and the Edge is just like, "Where's my delay pedal?" He's
Yeah.
it's just so funny, like that. Just
Where's
that 5
Bono laying
minutes
on
of
the
that
ground?
movie.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this
Where's
is
the camera that Bono sings into that goes on the big screen with his stupid bug-eye glasses and shit?
You got just that part of that movie.
Don't
is
even
just
get me
worth it.
started on YouTube. Okay?
Yeah,
just hilarious.
let's edit that.
Oh,
So how about "There's No Home for You Here"? Remember that song? There's no home for you here.
That
be
has
on
like
your
those
way.
harmonies and all that shit
Yep,
in it.
there's
Yep.
no home for you here. And then
That's a good one.
girl,
That
you
is a
I
have
like the
great
cadence of
tune,
that
man.
too, like that triplety kind
yeah.
of feel. You know?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like the hardest button to button.
The hardest button got it
Yep.
listed. Yeah.
And girl, you have no
That had a
faith
cool
in
video.
medicine.
Yes.
I
You
love
have
that
no
song.
faith in
I love the
medicine.
slapback vocals and the rhythm guitar in that song. That's just a really
He had
cool
a lot
tune.
of the. He had that like Robert Plant kind of vocal tone going on some of those tunes too, which I really like. You know.
Yeah.
Like, with
How
that
about,
that slapback kind of.
I like that. And
How
that's
about let's have a ball and a biscuit, girl?
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Take a
a good
sweet
one,
little
too.
time
Ball and
about
biscuit.
it.
Hell yeah, man.
Ball and biscuit. So what's ball and biscuit mean? I can't remember. It's like another
know what any of
English
these
thing,
songs
I
mean.
think.
I mean, balling's like fucking, right? Banging.
I think a ball and a
Can I
biscuit.
say that on your...
Yeah.
I can't remember what a ball and a biscuit means. We
But
probably
yeah,
sound like a
it-
bunch of downriver.
Yeah, but I mean, I
illiterates,
know,
but-
but like, and I don't know if it means it in that term, but like when you say like you're balling somebody, it means you're banging them, you know?
Really?
Yeah, like you know, like the Zeppelin tune, you know, I got a girl who wanna ball all day.
Oh yeah.
How about I want to be your backdoor man?
That's a great tune.
Yeah.
Is that,
I want to be your
what song
backdoor
is that?
man.
Lemon song?
No, hey, what can I do?
Yeah. Hey. What
Yeah, that's the B side to Immigrant Song, I believe.
That's the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love that Plant says in Whole Lot of Love, I want to be your backdoor man. There you go. What's that supposed to mean?
Wait a minute.
I want to be your backdoor
That doesn't mean he wants to
man.
put it in your butt.
Oh, I
dude.
think it does.
I think it does.
Yeah, I think it does.
I thought
No, the
he
backdoor
wants,
man.
he wants to be the back door.
The whole song, like, there's all this moaning and groaning and all this stuff
No,
in the
but
middle.
a backdoor
Oh,
man
come
is
on.
like your guy, like you're coming to the back door when the husband leaves the front door.
No,
Right?
that's
He's
not-
saying, I want to be your
Oh.
second person.
You're reading into it too much.
Yeah.
Squeeze my lemon till the juice runs down my leg.
That's the shit.
When I was in third grade, I got yelled at by my mom
did
for
you?
singing that. She's like, you don't know what that means. Stop
You're like,
singing
no,
that."
but it's awesome.
I
love the
don't
song.
really know if that's what that meant in that song, but like that's what
I know
it
what
just
you're
made me
saying.
laugh every time I'd hear that part.
But no, that's like an old blues thing. Like they say, you know, I'm your backdoor man. I
Yeah,
think like
yeah.
Johnny Lee Hooker had a tune like that or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about the blues, so I don't want to pretend like I do.
The blues.
So I feel like we've maybe gone out of order, but that's cool.
It's all right.
And covered kind of the White Stripes, and let's next get into the solo career, the Raconteurs, the Dead Weather.
Sounds good, man.
Cool. Let's have another drink.
Let's play that Jolene song.
Yes, sir.
Jolene.
Jolene.
Oh my God, you're